I'm here with Miss Chisa Putman. And the reason I wanted to interview today is because when I met you a couple of years ago, well, actually, I've been knowing you longer than a couple of years, but when we started talking, I got to know a little bit about your story. And for the people that are listening, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from?
Sure. I am from Cowpens, which not many people are familiar with, even though we're only an hour away. But I am originally from Cowpens, attended schooling in Cherokee County, and then I came to Winthrop, went to law school at Charleston School of Law, and later went back and received my master's degree from Clemson University.
Oh, wow. And so Winthrop University is what brought you to the Rock Hill area?
It is, and I did not intend to stay in Rock Hill after I graduated from Winthrop, but lo and behold, I graduated in 2003, and I'm still here.
Wow. That's incredible. And what I want to talk to you about today is the success of being an attorney and what that journey was for you. Growing up in Cowpens, what was it like down there?
It was very country. I knew that I wanted to be an attorney since I was like in the 4th grade. And I remember being in high school, it was a personal reason why I wanted to be an attorney in regards to my mother and things that she was going through raising a child as a single parent. And I remember watching Perry Mason, and when he stood up and talked in court, everybody listened. So those two things together, I'm like, yeah, I want to be an attorney. But I remember being in Gaffney, and I didn't know anybody who looked like me that was an attorney at the time. And I spoke to my counselor because at the time they used to do the 5 10-year plans in high school. And I remember telling my counselor, who was a black male, that I wanted to be an attorney. And the only thing he could tell me was that I needed to get good grades and I needed to go to USC Law. I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's something I need to do in between there, but that was the instructions that I received. So I feel like I had to kind of figure it out as I went. And when I got to Winthrop, I majored in poli-sci. And my mentor, my advisor at the time, he was an attorney, Dr. Boylan, and he kind of guided me as to what I needed to do.
Now, are you the first person in your family to attend, to go to law school?
In my immediate family, I have cousins on the other side of the family that are older than me. They've gone, and I have a little cousin. I guess she's not so little. She's only a few years younger than me, but she's also attended law school. But in my immediate family, yes, I am.
And you talked about Cowpens being a little bit country.
Just a little bit country.
Just a little bit country. Yeah. So can you expand a little bit on that? Or growing up, how was it like being country?
To explain it like this, I remember taking my prom picture in my front yard, and my date and myself were standing in the front yard, and in the background of the pictures, I was so excited because when I looked, I didn't realize it, but the cows had come over the hill. So in the background of my picture are the cows, and they're just like standing there. Literally, it was a cow pasture in front of our house. Beside my house was my cousin's house, and that was the pig pen that had goats, pigs, and donkeys, and behind the house was a peach field. So really, I'm from the country, but I'm proud of it.
So you're a country girl.
I'm a country girl.
And proud of it.
Very proud of it.
Well, let me ask you this. I think you talked a little bit about what made you want to get into the field of law. What was it that really changed your life to want to do that? I think you touched on it a little earlier.
I remember going with my mother. My mother, when I was growing up, worked at McDonald's, single parent. And my biological person did not assist my mother in raising me. And I remember, working at McDonald's, you don't earn a lot of money, especially back then compared to now. But she would pay these attorneys to assist her with getting child support so he could help take care of their child. And she had paid this one attorney $1,500. And that's a lot of money. Even now, that's a lot of money to help her enforce the child support order. And because he had skipped to North Carolina at the time, we didn't have the UCCJEA, so North Carolina couldn't enforce the order. So I remember her leaving the attorney's office, and she was like, still nothing. I'm like, she paid that attorney $1,500, and I remember saying, when I grow up, I'm going to help people like my mama. So when I started out in my private practice, I was actually in family law. And if I can help with family law now, I still give advice, but I'm doing criminal, but that's the reason why I wanted to pursue a legal career.
Wow. And given all that, what were some of the challenges you faced preparing for college or getting into law school?
Some of the main challenges were naysayers. I think I'm pretty strong-willed, and once I'm focused on something, I stick to it. But I did allow other people's opinions to get in the way momentarily. And by that I mean I would tell people that I wanted to go to law school, like, oh, that's going to be a lot of time, that's going to be more money, that's going to be more school. So instead of going directly to law school, what I actually did was, after I finished Winthrop, I received a paralegal certificate through the Center of Legal Studies. They had an intensive legal class at Winthrop on the weekends, so I did that, and I worked part-time for a local attorney as a paralegal while I was working full-time at the City of Rock Hill in customer service. So I would work for her in the evening and work at the city during the day. Only problem with that was I was doing the legal work, but the attorney gets the credit for the work that's done. I'm like, well, that's not what I was going for.
Right.
I'm like, so I really still wanted to go to law school. So I buckled down, I studied for the LSAT, prepared for the LSAT, took the LSAT. And funny story, again, I actually was accepted to law school the day before classes started, literally, because I was waitlisted. And me and the Dean of Admissions kept playing phone tag, and I remember he called me when I was working again at the City of Rock Hill back in account management, and I had a client sitting at my desk, and I saw the dean's name pop up. I was like, do you mind if I take this for a moment? She's like, yeah, honey, go ahead, because my clients were really nice. And I spoke to him. He's like, we have you on the wait list, and if you're still interested, we would love to have you join our class. This was Wednesday. Classes started on Thursday, literally the next day. So those were challenges in itself.
Wow. And my understanding, during law school, you were a barista.
I was a barista.
You don't like coffee.
No, I don't like coffee.
So how did that come about?
Because I needed a part-time job. We had our first child my second semester of my second year of law school, and I needed some extra money because I still lived in Rock Hill. But during law school, I stayed with my great aunt in Charleston. So I needed gas money. I needed money to do other things with. So I applied for a part-time job at the barista, the store, and I was a barista, and it was really bad because I do not like coffee, and then I was pregnant, so I don't like the smell of coffee, but I was fixing coffee every day.
Oh, wow. That'd be tough, especially if I was in a situation like that and I didn't particularly like.
I didn't even like the smell of it.
Good gracious.
But I did it for about 5 months. Yeah, 5-6 months.
Wow. In my understanding, after law school, you left your private practice, which you talked about a little bit earlier, and you worked as a staff attorney with the South Carolina Legal Services?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I was a PIA, or a contract attorney, with them while I was in private practice, and a position came open full-time with their office, so I left private practice and went to work with South Carolina Legal Services. I handled landlord-tenant, mortgage foreclosure, family law, consumer, and every now and again a little wills trust.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And you've had several other accomplishments after that, and you went on to the City of Rock Hill, as I think you stated earlier, as a temporary solicitor. Yes. And you also, after that contract ended, you was appointed the magistrate judge in March of 2017. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? Yes,
that was a great experience. I was a magistrate actually up until I took my current position. I was appointed March 8th, 2017, so served actually March 8th up until August 31st, August 28th of this year. And in July of the same year, I was appointed as the Associate Chief Magistrate, and I served as the Associate Chief until I was appointed as Chief Magistrate in July of 2019. And now you're the Senior Solicitor for the City of Rock Hill. Yes, sir. How's that been? It's great. I'm back home. I love working with the county. I love the experience. I love the people. But City of Rock Hill is where I started, and hopefully City of Rock Hill is where I will end my career. I really enjoy the people. I enjoy my position. I enjoy the whole atmosphere.
And with all those successes, and some of the listeners that are listening that are thinking about or wanting to become an attorney, what is some advice that you would give someone wanting to become an attorney, and what would that be?
To network, so you can, if nothing else, have an internship, do an internship, go work in a law office, because sometimes you want to be an attorney, but you don't know exactly what type you want to be. And when I tell young attorneys or those who are interested in pursuing a legal career, is to first figure out what you don't want to do, and that'll help you figure out what you do want to do, if that makes sense. Read a lot. I remember teaching a paralegal class, and I had one of my students tell me that they didn't like to read. I'm like, well, that's a problem, because if you're going to work in a law office as a paralegal or as the attorney, you need to be comfortable with reading, because you do a lot of reading. Also, just be well-rounded, because it's not one particular area that you should be sticking with, if that makes sense. When I studied poli-sci, I thought that I needed to have a political science major in order to be an attorney.
Right.
When I got to law school, I had friends and cohorts from all different areas. I mean, I had a friend who was a retired surgeon for 20 years. I had another friend who was a teacher. I had someone who was an artist. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, but that's beautiful, because you're able to add something else to the plate. When you're looking at a case, you can look at it from a different perspective, and that makes a difference.
Right. I remember when I was in college, that was the thing. They wanted to push the poli-sci stuff on you. And like you said, that's all we knew going through college. And when you get out, you're finding out that attorneys make up a wide range of backgrounds.
Science, all different areas. But I will say that I do appreciate that I did the poli-sci, because I like government, and poli-sci is government. So I went on to get my master's in public administration. So I'm still in government.
With all these successes that you've had and currently are having, what has been your greatest inspiration to keep you moving forward, to still become successful? My
children. They think it's cool that mommy was a judge and that mommy's a lawyer. And I just try to encourage them and be a positive role model for them. So when they look at mommy, they can say, my mommy's a lawyer, or my mommy was a judge. That's pretty cool.
And for your children, which are beautiful.
Thank you.
If they asked you today, Mommy, how would you define success? What is your definition of success?
Success is a personal goal, so it's different for everyone, but mine would be doing something that makes you happy, that you feel confident in, that you feel comfortable looking yourself in a mirror after you've accomplished it. So success is happiness to me.
And what are some of the principles, if you can talk about that, that you follow? Any principles out there that you follow to keep yourself successful?
Be honest and treat people the way you want to be treated. It doesn't matter if it's defense counsel, it doesn't matter if it's the judge, it doesn't matter if it's the defendant, if they're pro se, it doesn't matter if it's a victim, it doesn't matter if it's an officer. I treat everybody the same, and I would hope to have the same respect given to me. So treat people the way you want to be treated and make sure you're respectful.
That's some great principles to live by.
Thank you.
And based on your story and your successes, I have to ask you this. If you could write a book about yourself, what would that be and why?
You mean the title of the book?
Mm-hmm.
The title of the book would be The Slave House. And the reason for that would be growing up in Cowpens, coming to Rock Hill, coming to Winthrop, I didn't realize I was poor growing up because we had everything that I ever needed or wanted. Mm-hmm. But I remember one of my friends went home with me one weekend to Cowpens, and I grew up in the family house. But it was the family house that my great-grandfather assisted in building, if I remember correctly, for the man who lived up the road and owned a lot of property. So the house really only had 2 bedrooms. It had a kitchen and it had a living room sleeping area, because back in the old days, you know, they combined things. And several of us lived in the house. It was myself, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather. It was a very modest house, but again, we had everything we needed. So when my friend went home with me for the weekend, everything went well, but we came back to Winthrop, and I'll never forget, we were talking to some of our other friends. She's like, "You have to see Chisa's house. Have you ever seen Chisa's house? It looks like she lives in a slave house." And I was just dumbfounded. And she told people I lived in a slave house. I was like, well, I never had an issue with my house. I mean, we had power, we had water, we had food, we had a roof over our head, we had heat. I never looked at my house as less than anyone else's.
Right. I remember growing up, you know, similar to you. It's like you said, you have everything else until you get to the outside world, and you look back on that, you really start to realize how, you know, how poor you are, and you start seeing how other folks live.
Right.
So I know a lot of people have that story, but that's one of those things where, like you said, it's just you become so thankful for what you do have.
Yes, I was blessed. I had my mom, my grandparents, and my godfather ended up assisting my mother in raising me, so I never wanted or needed for anything. But that just caught me off guard when she said that. I was like, wow. Oh, well.
So that's part of your motivation for continuing to be successful and strive forward, and that's why you've placed yourself in so many roles over the years. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to interview you, talk about your story. Your story, I'm sure, will inspire some of these folks out here, or some of these young folks that want to be an attorney or have that fear of going to law school, that they'll look at themselves and they'll be like, you know, hey, I can do this. This is where I come from, but I can make it too, regardless of my situation. I can make it too, because my situation may be bad, but I can make it better. Right. And that's exactly what you did. So I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.